Let's go live to Nick Wright, co-host First Things First, who is now joining us live, customary on Tuesday. All right, so let's start with this. I said, just because you win the Oscars for Best Movie, you're not an all-time movie. It could be an all-time moment. And I think this moment in time, a week east, Denver knocked out, Dallas a little over their skis as a 5 seed. It's a moment in time. This is a great, Chris Broussard did this yesterday. He said, you can go back to the Dr. J got Moses Malone team. It wasn't a dynasty, but for a year or two, they were really, really great. Mm-hmm. Is that how you classify this Celtics team?
Well, listen, I don't want the first thing I say on TV, post them winning the championship, to be downplaying them. So I will answer your question eventually, but I first want to say this. This is a great team in this moment in time, and those of us, and I raise my hand, that doubted this team, doubted them mostly because we said, well, they've got a lot of good players, a couple very good players, but they don't have any historically great players, and history tells us that you can't win a championship that way. This finals, to me, validated their lack of historically great players, but it also validated the way they built their full team to make it not matter that Jason Tatum didn't have a great series. It didn't matter that Jaylen Brown struggled from 3. It didn't matter that how about this, Colin? This, to me, is a stat no one has said until this very moment, but it speaks to how brilliant they were defensively. The fewest points the Boston Celtics scored in any 5-game stretch all season were the 5 games of the NBA Finals, and they rolled to a title. Yeah. Think about what that means. Offensively, they just had their worst 5-game stretch of the year, and they won pretty easily in 5 games. Why? Because they can guard 1 through 5. They have no weaknesses in that starting lineup. There are a lot of similarities, to me, to the 2004 Detroit Pistons. Not stylistically, but as far as no weaknesses in the starting lineup. You don't know who's going to be the best offensive player any given night. 4 of your 5 starters can give you 20 at any moment, and they are so connected and so great defensively that they crush you. So that's all the compliments. Now, to answer your question, when we say all-time great, what do we mean? There have been 77 NBA champions. Are we saying they're one of the 10 greatest teams? Well, they're clearly not that.
Right.
Are we saying they are one of the 25 greatest? Okay, maybe. Like, if you want to say this is the 24th best team in NBA history, so be it. But when the question I would ask the audience is, are you convinced this year's Celtics are better than last year's Nuggets?
No.
I'm not. I think that's an argument either direction.
Right.
Last year's Nuggets were not an all-time team.
Right.
So there are no buts about it. They won the championship. No one in the future will care about the path, injuries, any of that. They won the damn title.
Yeah.
But do I think they're a historic team? No, I don't think we've had a historically great team since the KD Steph Warriors. I don't think any champion since then has been historically great.
You know, I said about Luka, I said the threshold between great bucket getter and champion is different. Duncan, Michael, and Magic, 16 titles. They were foundational leaders. Like defensively, Magic, not a great defender, but there is a huge gap between Iverson and LeBron. Both get buckets. And Luka looked overweight most of the year, looked tired in the finals. I mean, when Jalen Brunson leaves and not only flourishes, becomes a superstar in the league, he's maybe not the easiest guy to play with, perpetually barking at refs.
I don't know. I mean,
I mean,
I don't know. Kyrie seemed to get along with him pretty well. Kyrie couldn't get along with any player for 5 years. Kyrie played his best basketball in 6 years. I won't abide this, Colin. I mean, you talk about Luka being overweight. It hurt him so badly. He led the league in scoring. He had his 5th straight All-NBA first-team year, and he dragged the Mavs to the finals. In all of NBA history, as of a year ago, the only person ever to lead the playoffs in points, rebounds, and assists was Jokic last year. There is now a second person on that list. It's Luka Doncic, and he led the playoffs in steals. Like, there are Kyrie struggled in all 3 games in Boston. The Mavs role players, none of them played up to their playoff standard. Now, did Luka, for them to win the title, they needed A-plus basketball from Luka. They did not get that. That is totally legitimate. But the idea that we are going to use this season at age 25 years old to do anything other than build up the legend of Luka Doncic is insane to me. He has gotten further in the playoffs at this age than Michael, than LeBron, than Giannis, than Jokic, than Steph.
Right.
He has gotten as far in the playoffs at this age as Durant. The guys Kobe, Duncan, Magic, who got further at this age, had a Hall of Famer in their prime alongside them. The Luka stuff is not. This is not the time to go after Luka. Now, what he lost his opportunity, Colin, to be the best player in the world. That's Jokic now until further notice. Pardon me. But if you have a top 3 and Luka's not in it, your top 3 is invalid. So if you don't have him as one of the 3 best players in the world, I don't know what to tell you.
Looked a little puffy to me, a little fatigued. But, you know, that...
Yeah, he needs to get in better shape. Yeah. He does. But you know what can tire people out? Carrying this team to the NBA Finals. And he's never has the greatest cardio. That he does need to improve. There's no doubt about that. He needs to improve that. But I do think where he wouldn't use the injury as an excuse, I think the injury made him look slower than he actually was. But yeah, to get to the next level, he needs to get in slightly better shape. But my point is the next level is clear-cut best player alive. If he stays at this level, he's going to be one of the 25 greatest players of all time.
So I was, you know, it was interesting when Aaron missed the minicamp. And I said yesterday, you know, and I've said this before, never married, no kids, not sure he has a pet. As you get older and richer, you can get a little self-absorbed. Like, you know, wives, kids, sacrificing. So I've seen this in the media. I've seen it in sports. So if Aaron didn't want to go there, but to be a foxhole guy, the GM missed on a quarterback and a left tackle. The coach is on the hot seat. You have an offensive line that's brand new that won't play much in the preseason because old offensive linemen don't. And an old receiver coming in and 2 new ones. And I said, you would just show up for the team. Like if we were having a morale building 3-day seminar, I think I'd show up for the FS1, you know, event. You'd show up. You'd show up, if not for yourself. It's not a learning event for me. It's a team thing. It does sort of rub me the wrong way. It's like, Aaron, you played 4 snaps last year. You got to.
Colin,
am I nuts?
I think you're being a little too gentle. If the reports are true, hey, give me in 10 words or less what happened with Aaron Rodgers last week. The answer is skipped work to do drugs. I don't really need a longer story than that. Now, I'm like that I know that, and people are like, oh, Nick, get with the times. Guys, I am open to the healing, recuperative, and therapeutic powers of a lot of substances. Some are legal in this country, some are not. I am not a prude in that regard. I will listen to you on it. I got friends in New York that walk around Central Park microdosing mushrooms and say, oh, it's changed my life. I'm open to it. But if you had a buddy that was a year into a new job and the first year didn't go great. And it's like, oh, they're having that company-wide offsite that you've known about for months. Are you excited for it? And it's like, oh, I actually told him I can't make it. And it's why I'm leaving the country to go do drugs. You'd be like, buddy, I think you don't have your priorities in order.
Right.
And it's like, no. I need this for my mental health and all of these things. But I'm going to use a awkward Colin Cowherd analogy that I'm not that great at. There are a lot of things that folks would like to do that might improve their mental health. The new thing everybody does, everybody brings a dog on an airplane because they're a nervous flyer. You know what really relaxes me on an airplane? A delicious, full-flavored cigarette. I'm not allowed to do it, even though it would make me feel a lot better, because they're like, hey, those are the rules. You know what I bet Tyron Smith or somebody on the Jets might say? You know, to get my mind right before the season, I would really like 7 days in Bali with no one bothering me, on a beach, zen, meditating. And you know what the Jets would say? No problem, buddy. There are 4 weeks on the front end and 6 weeks on the back end when that's available. These 3 days, can you make sure you're at work? And every other player was able to say yes, and Aaron said, can't make it. This trip is too important. And if that trip is because this is when I had scheduled months ago my retreat to go do ayahuasca, I don't know why we have to patty cake around it. It is a ridiculous choice, and it is an indefensible choice. And what is going to happen, Colin, is when Aaron comes out and talks about this publicly, this is my prediction, not only is he not going to take accountability, he is going to not so subtly slap Robert Saleh's wrist. Yeah. Well, I don't know why that was, discussed the way it was. I did let them know I'd like to keep things in-house and try to remind everyone with the Jets that I am the top dog here, up to and including missing an event that every single one of my teammates, aside from Hassan Reddick, who's not even fully a teammate yet, was at, because I had a pre-scheduled appointment to go do ayahuasca, supposedly.
I want to end it on this because it's a cultural discussion as much as a basketball discussion. My initial take, and I'm standing by it, is that the media doesn't know how to handle Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, but Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark know how to handle it. The media's parachuted in and awkwardly defended Clark, who's like, I don't need defending, it's basketball. That was my initial take. It's still my take. She's an excellent player, both are actually, and that they're fine, and that there were 130 flagrants this year in the NBA. There were 65 last year in the WNBA, exactly half, and they have exactly half the games. So flagrants happen, sometimes not by villains. Many of the most liked players commit a flagrant. Things happen in sports. And I'm going to double down on this, is that Angel and Caitlin, for their age, are handling it almost like Dak Prescott level, where they go to the podium, they know exactly what they're doing. It is us that doesn't know how to handle it, parachuting in.
That is exactly right. So that is exactly right. So, listen, if I were advising Caitlin Clark, would I have told her, hey, there are some really nefarious bad actors using you to be divisive, and you might want to get out ahead of this earlier than she did? Yes, I would have advised her for that, but I think she has handled all of this scrutiny in her early 20s and fame and all of it. I give her like a A- on the grade sheet. Angel Reese, would I have advised her, hey, if you're going to kind of lean into the villain role at the press conference, don't say the refs, took control of the game. There could be a little more accountability right after the moment. Sure, but I give her an A- in how she's handled it. I give the internet and the sports media not only an F, but you have to repeat the class. It is shameful what we're doing to these two young women. And the way they are being used as pawns in what is our never-ending national culture war that has race at the forefront of it. The fact that there are folks that paid for verified Twitter accounts and are now trying to suckle off Elon's money by putting up disingenuous, fanning the flame tweets, whether it is that, Caitlin Clark is this delicate flower that needs to be protected, Angel Reese is some predatory villain, or the flip side of it, the folks tweeting, actually, when you look at it, Caitlin Clark, not that good at basketball, all to get engagement because they're going to get a check from Twitter at the end of the month is shameful.
Yeah.
What is undeniably true is this. These two young women, who are the two most famous players in the league, far from the two best, but right now they're the two most famous, they have been the best and the second best rookie so far this year.
Yep.
The only two rookies averaging more than 10 points a game, these two. Caitlin, one of two players in the league averaging 15, 5, and 5. Angel, the only rookie averaging double-digit rebounds. And neither one of them is playing into this whole they hate each other piece. I do think there's a real rivalry.
Yeah.
I do think there is competitive fire. And what they are doing, Colin, if I may just quickly, it is exactly what the media begs NBA guys to do. Oh, back in Michael's era, people weren't so buddy-buddy. Now everyone's friends. Where's the competitive fire? We are seeing it, and we're complaining about it and trying to turn it into something that it's not. Yeah. It's a great basketball story, and it's great for the league. At some point, it will go back to being a basketball story.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the girls are great. I mean, it is, and I will say this with a bunch of kids in my life, is that my kids are more mature than I was, and certainly at this time. They've grown up with tech, and they've gotten access to more information, and they're smarter. And I think a lot of it is Caitlin Clark has watched how to handle controversies in her life. She's been a rock star for 2 or 3 years. She's brilliant at the podium, and Angel Reese is kind of leaning into the villain, and that's okay too, because
that's okay too.
Yeah, I have defended Draymond Green, not just because he works at my company.
Oh, you don't say.
Occasionally, rarely, infrequently. But the point is, Steve Kerr considers him, after Curry, the most valuable commodity, the most valuable player. There's what Angel's doing is needed on virtually every basketball team in time.
And if I may just quickly, and then I know we got to go. It is so patronizing to both of them. Acting as if Caitlin needs protecting. She has been a badass as a basketball player her whole life.
Yeah.
She doesn't need protecting. And acting as if Angel is infallible in everything and that any criticism is unfair. She is a star athlete.
Yeah.
You know what we do with star athletes? Pick at them, criticize them. They are both, and they will both be better for this, for going through this. And I think eventually they are going to be the actual earned faces of the league rather than, great college players who are having good rookie seasons. Yeah. And it'll be excellent for it. But people are uncomfortable with the fact that Caitlin, the hot-shot, high-scoring rookie that's a little undersized, is getting beat up a bit.
Yeah.
But that is the story of sports.
Yes.
And it is not about her being a white girl, and it is not about any of this other stuff. She is this rookie that is trying to light the league on fire. Yeah. And bigger people are going to remind her it's not going to be that easy. That is how sports work, guys. Yeah. That's just how it works.
Yeah, by the way, Bryce Harper dealt with this, not for a 6-game stretch, for 3 years. He walked into, I said this yesterday, the WNBA and baseball are similar in that both have lamented the attention other sports get. NBA, NFL got more than baseball. Yeah. WNBA's like, hey, we got an audience, you talk NBA. And so they're very insular. They can be a bit defensive. They're very proud. Baseball, there's a way to play. WNBA, we got this. We're good at what we do. So I understand they're a little defensive when a newcomer comes in. A lot of us parachute to talk about their sports and only talk Bryce Harper and Caitlin Clark. Like, I get a little pushback, and I'm totally – it's the junior senator. Like, I get – when Tiger Woods came into golf, I can remember being a local sportscaster. Do you guys ever show anybody but Tiger? And I'm like, he makes golf interesting. To your point, Bryce Harper, Caitlin Clark, Tiger Woods, we have seen this over and over. By the way, what is golf?
And as far as
golf's very insular as well.
Yes, and this, I'll leave it at this. And even you mentioned guys who were all-time greats, or Tiger, obviously, Bryce, a really, really great player. But hey, this rookie's getting a little too much publicity, and we want to take him down a notch. Somebody go back and watch Lonzo Ball's first 10 games and how he was guarded. Honestly.
Yeah.
And that wasn't race. That wasn't money. That was essentially, your daddy talks too much and we don't like it. And so that is part of sports, guys. And everyone needs to just take a deep breath and recognize, whether you like it or not, the WNBA is going to follow a lot of the beats of sports because it's a sport. That's all.
Good seeing you, buddy. First things first after our show today. I knew we'd have a lively ending with Caitlin Clark, and Nick and I don't agree on a lot, but sports is great for a lot of reasons, and one of them is you got to earn it and prove it, and Caitlin's going through that tunnel. Nick, great seeing you as always. Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.